Director Jang Joon-hwan's 2003 film Save the Green Planet has been reborn as the Hollywood movie Bugonia. How has the Korean black comedy film appealed to filmmakers overseas who wanted to do a remake? To find out, we are joined by our film expert Jae Soh, professor and filmmaker at the Seoul Institute of the Arts. Welcome back, Professor Soh.
Hello,
nice
Professor.
to be back.
So, Bugonia was just released in Korea on Wednesday, so a little earlier abroad though. So please tell us about the response that we have so far.
Well, I watched it on the day of the release. It was like a 7:30 at CGV, and it was packed.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was really shocked. But you know, it started basically on Wednesday, and so far there's like over 10,000 viewers, and it's number 4 at the box office in Korea. But abroad, it's already made about $12 million worldwide. So it's just starting to sort of do it. I think it was released in October in the US and things like that. But as you mentioned, it's a remake of a Korean film, Save the Green Planet. And it's directed by a Greek, he did a lot of American films in English now, but a Greek director named Yorgos Lanthimos. And then it stars Emma Stone. So it's sort of like really glamorous that a Korean movie that was made in 2003 has been remade by a Hollywood, actor and director.
Right, and so you did watch it on the day of the release in Korea. What was your take on it? How did you like it? And any interesting parts that you've seen?
Yeah, I really liked it. Actually, I was just thinking, I thought of the original movie, which basically I've been a fan of for a very long time. So I was really excited that, director Lanthimos was going to sort of tackle this subject matter. But I was just thinking, it's just so wild that a Korean movie actually that didn't do that well financially in 2003 was watched by another filmmaker named Ari Aster, who did a movie called Midsommar and Hereditary, and he's a big fan of Korean cinema, and basically he's the one that kind of produced the story, and the writer for it, Will Tracy, wrote Succession. So you have like these huge stars and amazing talent around the world ready to do it, and I thought, it's actually Yorgos Lanthimos' most expensive movie at $45 million, but it looked really great. I really like the acting, not just of Emma Stone, but I really like this actor, basically Jesse Plemons, who's also in Kind of Kindness, the previous film they did together. But he's just really fantastic because he's kind of a beefy guy, but in this movie he lost a lot of weight, so it really lends to his character. And then it's such a good movie because it's based on the original Korean movie, so it's a social commentary about modern times, and it really hits home.
Yeah. Okay, let's go a little bit more in depth. So this Korean movie, it's a cult classic, Save the Green Planet. In Korean, it's 지구를지켜라.
Yeah.
And it did receive significant attention, but as you mentioned, Professor Soh, this did turn out into a huge success in terms of viewership. But now, nevertheless, 2 decades later, we're seeing this being made by a Greek director and with Hollywood stars like Emma Stone. So what do you think was appealing about the original movie?
I think the story itself, it was so unusual in Korea when it came out in 2003. There's only like 70,000 people that went to see it. And I still remember the poster. I think the director told me later that the poster was one of the reasons why it didn't make it, because kind of like the poster was like a comedy.
Right.
And it's not a comedy. I would say a black comedy perhaps. But the story is just really fantastic. It has I'm not going to give spoilers, but an amazing ending. And I saw it in the US many years later, and I was blown away by the movie. And I thought, who's this director, Jang Joon-hwan? And I went to look for his filmography, and at that time he hadn't made another movie. And he's only made 3 films after that. And because of the financial failure of that, his next movie, Hwae, the Monster Boy, came 10 years later. So, but at the same time, I'm really happy that this movie was kind of rediscovered. I think CJ had a hand in sort of like wanting to remake it. And the producers were talking about how maybe the movie was way ahead of its time, and it's more applicable to 2025. So I think it's really fantastic that now considered one of the best directors out there. And then Emma Stone, who won the Academy Award for Best Acting, in a movie with Lantimos called Poor Things just before. So a lot of people, a lot of eyeballs around the world are going to watch this movie. Yeah.
Very proud
Director
to see.
Jang would be also very happy right now.
Yes, definitely. And whenever we see these remakes, we always wonder what would be some changes from the original production. So with this now movie, how much of the original production has been kind of taken, and what kind of changes has been made with the film?
Actually, I was really surprised how much they were very faithful to the original story. Of course, they updated it to today, and they changed the main character from a man to a woman, things like that. But I was surprised, like they were very, very religiously close to the original material. But I think what remakes are famous for is basically because the original made such an impact. What they usually do is they keep it close to story, they update it to modern times, and usually, there's a sort of a message behind the original movie that they try to sort of apply to today. And I think those things with different actors and a different sort of milieu and culture, I think a lot of times these remakes, it's as old as cinema itself. Like we keep doing it over and over again. And I think there's certain stories that just hit people's imagination a certain way, and I think Bugonia is a prime example of that. Yeah.
And you did just mention there was this gender swapping actually.
Yes,
So
yeah.
the main character turned into a female character. Is this something that we're seeing often these days? Can we interpret this as a reflection of the times?
Oh yeah, definitely reflection of the times. I think inclusivity, being more inclusive about different things was definitely on the agenda for the director to change it to Emma Stone. And I think what it does is like when they've done this before and it's not always successful. For example, they did the remake of Ghostbusters with a female cast, and I think people were angry at that, and the movie didn't do as well financially. But there have been success stories like, I think Ocean's 8, which was like a remake of Ocean's 11 with a female cast, and Ocean's 8, featured really, great cast, and it did really well. So by sort of changing the gender, I think, it's a commentary about how, in the 21st century, we're looking at things much more, I guess like women and men are the same, and also, basically swapping the genders kind of puts a new twist on the story as well.
Yeah, I think
definitely.
if there is ever someone, trying to think of what to change in a remake, and if they don't want to disappoint the fans too much regarding the plot, then they could change the gender. That would be maybe even the most simple thing you could do.
Sure, it just puts a new spin on
Right.
it, so yeah.
Definitely. And we've talked about this, Professor, with you previously on our show, but international co-production has been a thing in the industry as well. Bugonia also involved Korean participation in planning, production, and also distribution. So what do you think the significance of this kind of global working together cooperation in the field of film industry?
Well, definitely, I think it's a really great trend because, as you know, you had Parasite and K-pop Demon Hunters. Right now, Korea is really hot. And what's really interesting about it is that not only are the stories that Korean filmmakers are doing that are interested, like the world is interested in, but at the same time, I think the sort of our cultural uniqueness as well is something, if you look at K-pop Demon Hunters, all the food and snacks that come out of it are things that now everybody's trying to eat. That's not even at the time when the movie came out first, it wasn't really that available. Now everybody's like ordering on the internet to get it. So I think the uniqueness of sort of Korean culture and also the fact that the storytelling is so unique. And I think, like many cultures, there are a lot of remakes of Korean movies right now being done, overseas. And I think with the interest in Korean cinema and Korean products and beauty products or like music or dramas, I think every producer around the world is thinking, how do I make a remake or how do I do a co-production with a Korean company to do a story that will likely be a hit all around the world. So I think that's a really amazing sort of outcome, of recent sort of, I think, everything from, I'm taking out Squid Game, for example, but, it's just hitting a chord with, I think, the global audiences around the world, for sure.
And we can definitely see like a synergy between K-drama, K-film, K-culture, K-pop. So it's great to see all of them do so well overall as a Korean culture.
Great development indeed that we're seeing. And but with remakes, there are also concerns regarding copyrights, distribution, as well as the scope of adaptation. adaptation. So how should we deal with these remaining issues?
Well, that's the thing that we have to kind of protect. Maybe the government can really help with that, but I think, IPs are basically, somebody's property, and when you want to sort of remake something, you should definitely, pay the person, also get the copyrights and do it correctly. Because I think sometimes some countries or some cultures will take advantage of that and just go ahead and they'll call it their original movie, but it's actually a ripoff of the original Korean content. So I think we should protect ourselves, I think, legally, and also the fact that Bugonia was actually involved CJ Entertainment is a really good sign. To have Korean producers actually go outside of Korea to actually take part in co-productions is a surefire way to protect our IP and to see that it's done correctly. I think director Jang Joon-hwan was originally going to do the Bugonia movie. It wasn't called Bugonia then, it was sort of a remake of that, but he had a health issue. So when he found out that Lantimos was going to do it, he was very excited that a very famous director was going to take on his remake. So I think that's a perfect example of like how to do it, is to have Korean producers be a part of the whole sort of outcome and production of the material. For sure.
And finally, whenever a release of a remake is out, the audience faces a dilemma. Should I watch the remake first or should I watch the original first? What is your opinion on this?
Well, I actually teach a class in the summer, and it's about remakes.
Oh.
And I actually do it in chronological order. So I show you the original, and then but in my opinion, for regular audiences, I would watch the remake first. Because what will happen is if you see the remake, it's modernized. Maybe the original was in black and white, now it's in color. And if you're excited and you really like the movie, go back and watch the original, and then you'll see how they kind of redid it, And I think, for example, it saved the green planet, right? And then Bugonia. So what is Bugonia? Bugonia is like, it's a Greek myth about how bees come from a carcass of a cow, right? And now it relates to the director's Greek, and the movie has bees in it. So it's been kind of changed, but at the same time, you go back to the original Korean movie and you just see all these things. But what's great about both movies is that it's about sort of the way the course of humanity is going with greed, with corporate greed, about just the people with power always have power. And the aliens at the end do something, and it just hits home. The last scene in the movie is still shocking today with Bugonia, and very much, I would say, a commentary about what's happening in the world currently with all the wars and things happening. So I think, I think movies are great when it's not just entertainment. They leave you with something, a message that make you think about what's happening in your own life or in the world. And I think hopefully this movie will do that.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Soh, for your insights. And I'm definitely going to watch both the movies, the remake first and then the original.
Yes.
And see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Bella, as always. Have a great weekend and see you next week.
Yes, I'll see you back next week.